I'm Linda Coles, and this is Tell Us a Story. Now, just a few days ago, I received an email, and there's nothing remarkable about that. We all get emails, and it was quite a lengthy email. And as I got further and further down, I was more and more intrigued. And at the bottom of the email, this message said, "I'd like to be on your podcast. Is that okay? Because I'd like to prove that we're all capable of making a change." I'm now going to introduce Sam to you because Sam was the chap that sent that email to me. So I'm going to read out his bio because now he's ended up on the show and I want him to share his story. So Sam Demma is an 18-year-old passionate public speaker, avid reader and founder of the social enterprise PickWaste. He strives to spread a simple but powerful message that small, consistent actions will lead to massive change. He was nominated for his city's Youth Leadership and Environmental Awards for his outstanding efforts to raise awareness and solve an issue that is plaguing our world today. But his ultimate goal is to inspire the younger generation to take small, consistent actions towards their own dreams and goals. Now, Sam defies the common notion that states you must be of a certain age or status in order to make an impact. He's an advocate for social entrepreneurship and won't stop pushing his agenda until he spurs others into action. So it's my pleasure to introduce Sam and allow him to share his story with you today. So welcome to the show, Sam Demma.
Linda, it is an honor. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to spread my message and to share my story.
Oh, it's good to have you on, and thank you for sending that email because otherwise I wouldn't know anything about you.
No, I'm glad it all worked out, and I'd like to jump right into the story if we can.
Oh, absolutely. Let's start off with when you were at school?
Yeah, so it all began in my grade 12 year of high school. You know, I had a world issues teacher. And on one day in class, we weren't going over any ordinary topics. We were speaking about figures in history, massive people who have made amazing changes in the world. And we took their lives and we broke them down, trying to analyze and find characteristics that all these people shared, which enabled them to make massive changes. And what we found was that there was a lot of unique traits that made them each different. But there was one thing that they all shared in common. And it was that they all took small, consistent actions. And so on this day in class, my teacher literally proved to me and the entire class that we too could make a massive change in the world if we just commit to a small, consistent action. And so that was when I was 17 years old. At the time, I left the class and I was inspired. Now, I didn't know how I was going to change the world. In fact, I didn't even know what I was going to eat for dinner that night or where I want to go to university, let alone talk about making an impact on the world, right?
Yeah.
And so every day after school, I would walk home. It's about a 40-minute walk. And for about 2 weeks after that class passed, I had this question running through my mind. You know, Sam, how am I going to change the world? And I didn't know until one day, while I was walking home, and it hit me literally as I stumbled over a piece of trash. And right at that moment, it clicked that, you know, there's garbage everywhere, and I walk past it every single day. Why not just pick it up? And so that exact day, that moment, I decided to put my teacher's theory to the ultimate test. And I would make my small, consistent action picking up garbage. And so for about 2 months, on my walks home from school, I'd fill both my hands with trash. And when I got home, I would just put it in the garbage can. It didn't take me much longer, maybe 5 minutes to bend down and pick it all up on my walks home. And about 5 days before summer break, my best friend and now partner in this movement, his name's Dylan, he saw me and he was driving, he pulled over and he rolled down his window. And he said, he kind of laughed because most kids would laugh. And he's like, Sam, what are you doing?
Yeah, it's not cool.
And so, yeah, you're picking up garbage. What are you doing? And so I kind of chuckled, but then I got a little more serious because I was like, Dylan, imagine a world where 7 billion people, everyone on this planet, picked up one piece of garbage while they were going about. That would be 7 billion pieces that didn't end up in our oceans, right? Or ingested by our animals. True. And so It's true, right? And to take it a step further, I said it doesn't even have to be the environment per se. Imagine a world where every single person took small, consistent actions towards whatever they're passionate about in life. How much better of a planet we'd be living on. And yeah, so Dylan was very inspired, and he called me up the first day of summer. I'll never forget. And he made the statement that changed both of our futures forever. He said, Sam, I love what you're doing, but we need to do something with this. Let's structure it and let's meet up every single weekend. And so the first Saturday of summer break, it was July 1st, we met up and we cleaned up a beach. And that was the day that PickWaste was born.
Wow. So it's a regular thing that you've started then. It's not just a one-off, let's go clean some garbage up.
No, so I'll tell you a little bit about that was the kind of back end story to what got us started. And now PickWaste is a community initiative it started out of the necessity to clean up the community, but with the underlying message to teach people that they too can make a change. We meet every Saturday morning. It started off with only 4 or 5 guys, and now we're getting about 20 to 30 people coming out every Saturday morning to pick up trash. And we've now met faithfully 33 times and filled 350 bags of garbage and recycling.
Wow. So I'm guessing then that, I'm probably jumping ahead quite a bit here, but I'm just trying to think of how what your plan is for the future, is that this spreads countrywide, worldwide, and that everybody gets behind it. Small groups of people meet regularly and do something to help their own environment.
Exactly. So I'll give you like a little rundown of what I kind of envision PickWaste to become. So even if someone's passion's not about the environment, I want them to find their own passion and purpose and just dive right in. Now, if their passion and purpose aligns with what we're doing, we definitely want kids, ambitious kids or adults, to start running their own groups in their own cities. But we're trying to preach this idea that picking up garbage in itself is not the solution, because if someone can still throw a cup on the ground after we pick up and clean an entire area, it defeats most of the purpose.
Yeah.
And so if we can get enough cleanups going and enough people cleaning up, it raises a lot of awareness. And one day the entire system could flip on its back, where there's no more plastic bottles. You can't go into a coffee shop and use a reusable cup. You have to bring in a reusable mug. And so that's what we're hoping, that the entire system actually changes, because that's the only way we can truly solve this problem of pollution.
And other people are doing their little bit, like you mentioned that the plastic cups there, or there's a lot of porcelain cups now, where you take your reusable cup into Starbucks or your coffee shop and you don't buy a paper one anymore. You've got straws now rather than the plastic ones that you might find in McDonald's, that you can buy metal reusable straws for your children. There's a whole heap of things, isn't there?
Yeah, so there's lots of cool things going on. There's also some amazing initiatives as well, as a lot of companies are now seeing these environmental issues that are coming to the light. For example, there's one company called For Ocean, like they're for the oceans, and they sell a reusable bracelet. It's made out of recycled plastics, and if you purchase a bracelet, they pull a pound of trash out of the ocean. Wow. And I know to date they have pulled more than 400,000 pounds of trash, and it's only been operating for a year. And so I think like movements like those, as well as there's another one called SandCloud, which donates 10% of their profits. Things like that are really going to help to make the switch, because the bigger they grow, the more people start to pay attention, saying, wow, how are they pulling out 400,000 pounds of garbage? This is a serious issue. It's bringing more light to the problem.
And it is, and it's getting a lot of press at the moment, particularly the state of the oceans and the plastic. And we've gone plastic-free bags at home now, and we have reusable bags. And again, it goes back to your point of making those small, consistent changes to and so changing the way you do things just a little bit, and encouraging your neighbour to as well at the same time.
No, it's very true. Like I always tell people, there's some very simple things you could do. Like one, buy the reusable mug. And the way I try to inspire them to do that is, hey, like, did you know that when you go into Tim Hortons or McDonald's or Starbucks, they actually give you 10 to 20 cents off if you bring in a reusable mug? And you might not think it makes a big impact, but the facts and the statistics say that there's over 60 billion or just around 60 billion plastic cups made each year. And out of the 60 billion, only 1% end up being recycled. So you can imagine how many end up elsewhere, whether that be a landfill or typically the ocean, because the oceans cover about 70% of the planet's surface. So a lot of it will end up at the bottom of the ocean.
And it is about education as well. I mean, you mentioned a moment ago, there's no point you going through cleaning up if somebody else is just going to tip their trash out their car window as they drive by. And I was out for my walk this morning, and we're about 10 kilometres away from a McDonald's or a KFC. I think there's both down there. And it must just be about that time in the car when people have had enough of their food and they throw the rest of it out of the window. Now, that's fine if it's just the fries because the birds eat them. But unfortunately, they don't eat the Coke bottles or the wrappers that come with it. And the neighbourhood ends up having to go themselves to clean up what other people have just decided they don't want in their car and take home anymore and just toss it out the window. So it is an education thing too, isn't it?
It is, yeah. So in terms of educating the people, we don't focus so much on the scientific aspect because you'll bore the person. We focus more on saying, hey, look, there is an issue. Provide the facts that show, look, this is a serious issue and we need to take action. And the way we explain it is very simple. At PickWaste and myself, I believe that the conditions of humanity is just a reflection of the conditions of the environment. Basically, what I mean is that mankind or humanity and nature is actually one and the same. The conventional thinking is that the environment is something separate, and people say, I'm so passionate about the environment. I'm so passionate about saving the environment. But most of those people don't realize that there's a lot more being saved than just the environment. And the way I explain it is simple. The three resources we need to survive are water, food, and oxygen. Now, all three of those resources come from our environment, correct?
Yes.
And so the water we continue to pollute ends up one day becoming the water we have to drink. And the fish that live in the water will one day become the fish that me and you are going to eat, right?
Yeah.
And so the same thing goes with the soil. I think you grew up on a farm, if I'm not mistaken. And so the soil that we continue to pollute, whether it be pesticides, fungicides, or even just like plastic cups that leak into the underground water tables, the soil will one day grow the vegetables we have to eat. And now the vegetables are only as good as the soil they grow in.
Yes, it's true.
And it's the same thing with the atmosphere. We continue to pollute the atmosphere with fossil fuels, right? Carbon emissions and all these smokestacks and gas. Well, it's going to become the oxygen that me and you are going to breathe in. And so if we don't take care of these three things, the environment, these resources, all of humanity is going to suffer. And so it's funny that you said that this one gentleman or someone that throws their garbage out of their window, because I've had some people come up to me and say, Sam, why are you picking up that garbage? Because you didn't throw it there. And I explained to these people, look, like sometimes you have to swallow your pride, especially when if I don't pick up that garbage, it's going to affect me just as much as it affected the person who threw it there. And so like understanding that will allow people to say, hey, you know what? I have to put my pride aside and do the right thing for everyone, for myself included.
Yeah, make that difference. So that's just reminded me of the starfish story. Sam, do you know the starfish story?
I do. I actually talk about it all the time at some speaking engagements with students.
Oh, and, well, I'll let you tell it then.
Yeah, I'll dive right in. So my understanding is that there's a young boy, and every single morning he goes to a beach. And I guess it's every morning, all the starfish from the ocean, they wash up onto the shore. And if no one comes down and picks them up and puts them back in the ocean, they will die. I think the sun will kind of dry them all out. And so this one young kid, he goes out every single morning and he goes and he grabs the starfishes and he throws them back into the ocean so that they can live. And it's a small, consistent action, right? And a man comes by while he's doing this action and says, "Hey kid, like what are you doing? Like what are you doing to the starfish?" And the little boy explains, "Well, if I don't pick them up and throw them into the ocean, they're gonna die." And the older gentleman looks at him and says, "Well, are you stupid? Like there's 5 miles, 10, 15 miles of beach. There's no way you're gonna save all these starfish." And the boy looks up at the man, doesn't say a word, looks back down, grabs a starfish and he throws it into the ocean. He says, "Well, I saved that one.
Yeah, it made a difference to that one and all the ones that he'd already thrown in. And that's just reminded me of something a little bit more personal to me, I suppose. We've just recently added to our little small herd of goats. We had we had two. Unfortunately, one died of old age. And we didn't want to leave Brittany on her own, so we decided to get her another buddy. In fact, we got her another 4 buddies. And we decided that the criteria needed to be that they needed to be rescue goats. So looking for a new home for whatever reason. And we took 2 that were from a dairy herd, the excess that they didn't need anymore. One of the sad parts of dairy industry. But we took those 2 little girls, so that's Julie and Maddie, and then the chap up the road, Steve, he needed a new home, so he came to live with us, and then we found another one on Facebook that was looking for a new home, so Lloyd came to live with us. So we've got 5 now, so while we can't take any more, I hope we've made a difference to those 4 that we've taken in. And it's those small consistent changes, isn't it? Those small little steps that make a difference to something or someone.
No, it's so true. I mean, like, it could be anything. Like, it's funny that you mentioned goats. It could be literally anything. And so I always preach to people, like, whatever you're passionate about, whatever your purpose is, take small, consistent actions in that direction, and things will start to happen. You know, this conventional thinking, I don't know if it's when we're growing up, we're either taught, told, or heard that, like, one person or one action is too insignificant in the grand scheme of things, you know, on the global scale. And people so quickly will tend to believe that I can't make a change or I can't have an impact on the world. And through that class, which I was talking about before, my teacher broke down these figures from history, we realized that massive changes were not the result of massive actions. It was actually the result of a bunch of these small little actions that lead up to a massive change. And so when I explain it like that, and when people look at it from that perspective, it makes it seem like everyone can make a change, because literally you can. All you have to do is choose something and commit to it.
And I think it's cool that you're out to prove that you don't have to be older to start an initiative or to be involved in it. And young people aren't too young to help make a change, are they? You're a testament to that at the grand old age of 18.
I really appreciate it. But no, so that's one big thing for me. So I don't have a PhD, all right? I haven't even gone to university yet, but I've made this a point in my life where I said, you know what? I'm going to read books. I'm going to educate myself on this topic, first of all. And second of all, I want to make a change, and no one's going to tell me if I can or can't, because I'm in control of my own actions, right? And a couple of roadblocks I've hit are ones like that, where people have kind of turned me down or looked away because of my age. But a little down the road, when they see the actions that I'm taking and the work that we're doing, they come running back and say, oh, like, I'd like to get involved. How can I help out? Or come speak here now. Like, and so if you're a young person and you want to make a change and you're listening to this podcast, I would tell you, go do it. And even if people do not agree with you, or people put you down, or make you like seem like you don't know what you're talking about because you haven't gone to university yet, or just don't believe in you, follow through with your actions, because your actions will always speak louder than your words.
Yeah, and you can tell how much your passion is, you know, it's come through in what you're saying, Sam, and how you're saying it. And you've obviously done your research. You obviously feel very passionate about it. It just also reminded me of another story while we've been chatting of another Sam, actually. Must be something in the Sam gene. Sam Johnson, who is a New Zealander, and he actually ended up being the 2012 Young New Zealander of the Year, because he started the Student Volunteer Army after the 2010 earthquake in Christchurch. And wow. what he did, he mobilised 2,500 students, I think, at the time, to help with the clear up, because there was sediment and sludge and just mess everywhere, as you can imagine, after an earthquake. And they went on to do that type of thing, other projects all over the country. Sam's spoken all over the world of how he actually used that student base, if you like, and mobilise their labour. So it's a similar sort of thing. He just had an idea as a youngster, and off it went. So it's very cool what you're doing, Sam, a different Sam.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I'm a big advocate for youth involvement. In fact, one of my idols, I don't know if you ever heard of this young chap, but his name is Manu Goswami.
No.
I think he's 20 years old now, and he's actually a UN ambassador, and he started the largest youth fund for students. And it started out as the Canada Youth Fund, but it grew so big it became the World Youth Fund. And he's a testament to like youth entrepreneurship because he's only 20 years old. And so like any young person with a passion, it always makes me so happy to see that, because I even believe that when you're younger, you actually hold an advantage over everyone else, because when people look at a young person that's making a change or doing something amazing, they almost like step back and go, wow, this person's only 16 or this person's only 20 years old and look at what they're doing.
Yeah.
And so I would actually use that as an advantage as well, because you like once you grow up, once you're older, you lose that little edge. So it benefits you if you're confident and you believe in yourself.
And I think also you haven't got any negative knowledge at that age either, because you're invincible. And whatever you do, why won't it work? As if you put your mind to it. It's when you get older and you get responsibilities or you get lazy and you just think, oh, it won't work because of X, Y, and Z. Well, you don't think of that at 15, 16, 17 or any of those young ages, I don't think.
Yeah, no, it's true. I read a book by Napoleon Hill called Think and Grow Rich.
Yeah.
And the main topic in the book was that thoughts become things, and like whatever you put in your mind will somehow manifest itself, right? And learning that from a younger age, like I already did not have negative thoughts in my head, but like some people do. But if you come to this realization of, okay, I need to stop this thinking and put positive thoughts in my head, good things start to happen. You'll start to actually believe in yourself more. So definitely don't put those negative thoughts in, because anything and everything is possible.
It is.
If you just take those small, consistent actions. It always goes back to the small, consistent actions. Things start to happen.
So where else do you get your inspiration from? I mean, I bet you're a bit of a reader, are you?
I am. I love reading. So I had my one teacher who is kind of the guy who spurred me into action. I didn't really get into my backstory, but I'll share a little bit of it now because it makes sense. I was an elite athlete, a soccer player, and I was trying to pursue a dream of professional soccer. And when I was in grade 11, it was looking great. I was going to have a full ride scholarship to a university in the States, NCAA, Division I, and that's what I dreamt of. And I tore my meniscus, which is not a serious surgery for the knee, but it is enough to put you out for like 6-7 weeks. And I ended up missing a bunch of the major showcases where I could showcase my talent. And so I was kind of a little upset, but I still had my grade 12 year. And so I got the surgery done. I fixed myself up. I got back into the sport. And by the time grade 12 came around, things were looking great. Again, about 2-3 weeks before the showcase, I ended up re-tearing my left knee meniscus at a exhibition game. And my knee swelled up, and I ended up missing the showcases 2 years in a row. And I went and I got the surgery, and I decided, you know what, I'm going to take a 13th year. I don't know if they have that in New Zealand, but they do here. So I took a grade 13, and I tried to pursue this dream. I ended up tearing my meniscus in my opposite knee. And yeah, it was a bad situation. But after the third one, I kind of reevaluated my life and said, you know what, if I want to chase this dream, I have all these injuries, it's not really going to work out. And the reason why I tell you this story is because the second surgery I had was right when I got in my grade 12 year, right when I got into my world issues teacher, into his class. And at the same time I was going through all this hardship, he put this other aspect into my life of doing something great and making a change, making an impact, building a legacy, leaving your mark. And he inspired me to start reading. I actually hadn't read a full entire book that was outside of schoolwork up until my grade 11, midway through grade 11. And then he kind of spurred me into reading in grade 12. And I read amongst like all different topics. I love history. The book I'm reading right now is called How to Change the World by David Bornstein. And it's a book on social entrepreneurship. So all these people in this book give me inspiration. Basically, what they do is they use the business model as a force to do good in the world. The founder or the guy who coined the term social entrepreneurship was noted in that book. His name's Bill Drayton. And over his life, Bill started the biggest fund for social entrepreneurs around the world called Ashoka, and it still exists today. They've donated $65 million to various organizations and people that he's found around the world that are doing great things and that he thinks need funding. And two of the people actually that give me a lot of inspiration are Fabio Rosa and Florence Nightingale. They're totally different people, but they have both amazing stories. This one guy, Fabio Rosa, brought electricity to over, I think, 300,000 poor people in Brazil. And his journey was like over 15 years, because fighting against like the companies that are already there, they don't want him to get in because they lose a lot of money. But huge mission. Then there's Florence Nightingale, which was like the founder of nursing almost. I think she was alive in the 1800s, and she basically told her father, she was in a royal family, that she wanted to be a nurse. And at the time, to be a nurse was like dirt. It was like not respected. And he was like, no way, no way. And she had this urge within her that she wanted to just help people. And so she kept fighting against her father, and finally she got a gig. Anyways, she would end up going to the British Army and helping the soldiers and reducing the death rate from like 60% to 2%, writing a book on nursing that is still read today by students who take the courses. Just amazing story. All these people in this book are my inspiration. That's just two of them. I could go on forever, but I don't want to spend 2-3 hours talking about these people. But yeah.
Well, they say readers lead and leaders read. So if you're keeping up with your reading, Sam, you're obviously a leader in your field.
I appreciate it so much. I appreciate it. I really do.
So what message would you like to give everybody from this podcast? What would be, well, let's make that in two questions. What would be your one piece of advice, and what would be the message you'd like to leave people with?
Okay, I'll give two separate little things because I have like two things I want to touch upon. The first and most important thing that I want to touch upon is that I think it's like crucial that you find your purpose in life. And now I'm not saying go sit down right now and get out a piece of paper and go, what's the purpose of my life, and keep writing until you find it. No, it'll come to you gradually, right? But keep that in your mind. Like, what do you think you want to do? Like, what's the major purpose? And once you find the purpose, like the message I want to tell people is that make sure that all the actions you take in your life align with that purpose. And that for me has changed my life, because once I found that my purpose, and it's to solve this pollution problem and basically preserve the earth for future generations. That's what I believe my purpose to be. I try and make sure that all my actions revolve around that. And by doing that, it's amplifying everything times 1,000. And I believe like once you find your purpose, you actually attain the most happiness as well. So that's like one major message that I'd like everyone to hear, find your purpose and align your actions to it. The second thing I would like to share was actually a quote that I read in your book, Start with Hello. And it was quoted, I can't remember what chapter, but it was at the beginning. And it was a Pablo Picasso quote. And it said, action is the foundation of all success. And so my teacher taught me, like, it all stems back to this one point, small, consistent actions lead to massive changes. And so when I read that in your book, action is the foundation of all success, it's so true. I think a lot, like many times people will sit down and they overthink things and they get overwhelmed and they don't know where to start. They don't know how to start. But the truth is you just need to start, like just go and take the actions. And it doesn't have to be a big action. It can be a small action. And I actually encourage it to be a small action. So the second thing I'd like people to take away is just start taking actions. Literally just go out and take an action.
So I'm just wondering where you're going to end up, Sam. I can see you working with Branson or the UN or the United Nations. I don't know. Have you got a plan that far ahead?
To be completely honest with you, I haven't thought that far ahead.
Yeah.
I would love to play a major role in whatever way I possibly can. I would love to be a part of a team that's striving to solve this issue and play a part in the youth role. I love inspiring other kids. I love going and speaking in front of people. And so I think I'd be some type of public speaker, as well as I'd love to work for like someone like the UN or a huge company that's striving really to solve these problems. That would be like a dream come true. That'd be amazing.
Well, I think you wrote me an email. Maybe you go knocking on some other bigwigs' doors like Bradson and the UN.
Yeah, no, definitely. Honestly, like for everyone listening, I've reached out to a bunch of people. In fact, I make a small, consistent action of sending emails. It's so simple. And you never know. Sometimes your story captivates someone and they reply, and everything just keeps snowballing from there. So I'd say be ambitious and reach out to everyone. If you have a message that you want to be heard, go and knock on people's doors and tell them. Like give everything you got to it, and amazing things can happen. So I will definitely reach out to people. I've already emailed a couple people, but I will continue. I've actually realized that it's tough to message people through email sometimes, and so I actually started sending mail.
A written letter?
Yeah, a written letter. I didn't write it by hand. I typed it. But my strategy, I'll tell you my strategy. On the front on the letter, I try and write it almost like a little kid, because I feel like if they see it's like messy writing, they'll be like, oh, some little kid sent me mail, and they'll open it, So, yeah.
Well, 10 out of 10 for ingenuity, being a little bit different, and a great email that you sent me. So it worked with me, Sam. So I'm sure your ways will work with others to get you some airtime and some promotion for the great work that you're doing, and spread the word and get everybody else to start making some small, consistent actions, whether it's cleaning up the world or whatever it is. Yeah, no, I hope so. So where can people find out more about you, Sam, or get involved or spread it to their country? Perfect. Yeah. So they could definitely visit the website at www.pickwaste.ca. We have everything on there. My email address is on there as well. We share all of the pictures of our work on our Instagram page, which is just at PickWaste. And you could definitely send me a message through there, and we can set something up and chat. And you can check out like all our previous cleanups and the speaking engagements we've done. And if you're looking to connect with me personally, I'm on LinkedIn as Sam Demma, and I am on Instagram as Sam_Demma. So any of those platforms, I will definitely reply. I promise you that. Excellent. So that's pickwaste.ca. You're actually in Canada, aren't you? Yes. So we're based out in Canada. We're trying to expand. And if anyone is willing to start a cleanup in their country, we're more than willing to ship them bags and gloves and get them going right away. Well, thank you so much, Sam, for coming on and sharing your story. Great initiative. You can hear your passion and your enthusiasm, and you sound very switched on, and I know you'll go a long way. Linda, I appreciate it so much, and it was an honor to be on the show today. I hope that my words inspired a few of you and influenced some of you, as it's not something that I take too lightly. So thank you so much. You're welcome. You've been listening to Tell Us a Story. Why not subscribe or rate us next time you're on iTunes?